So what I wanted to do in this video is I want to talk about my golf swing. And if you like, a more recent discovery that I have made, not necessarily just on myself, but on other students as well. Now, I went to go and play a recent round at West Midlands and it wasn't very good. And the reason why it wasn't very good is because it was typical of most amateur rounds of golf. So there was some good stuff and some bad stuff. But it was kind of fairly typical of what I tend to see, especially with better golfers, which is that you're not quite in control of the bottom part of the golf swing. You're using your hands a little bit too much. You're going to get shots that are overdrawing. You're going to get blocks out towards the right hand side, and you're also going to affect the contact. So I kind of hit some great shots in there, but hit some fat shots, hit some overdraw bias shots as well, and got a few clean contacts. It just wasn't that enjoyable. So it wasn't until I came back and I put it on video and I was like, wow, I need to start videoing my swing a little more before I play. And I sort of realized how off it basically was. But as I've been sort of talking about the channel, I do want to do more real life progression stuff. And on yesterday's drill that I talked about on the channel, that was a really good starting point for a lot of golfers to understand the basic things. So what I'm going to be doing in this video in terms of my discovery is understanding, first of all, this impact zone, which is, again, just talking a little bit about what we did yesterday. So a couple of things that I really like to see with golfers is keeping the club face as stable as you can at the bottom part of the golf swing. So which basically just means, you know, no excessive hand motion like so. Now the way you're going to get that is through good rotation. If I can rotate my pelvis, rotate my chest, therefore theoretically rotate my shoulders well through the ball, if I sort of hold my right hand close to my body, you can see the way that as I rotate, that brings that club through, and that club is going to be moving through very, very stable. If I sort of don't do that and I excessively let my left arm just peel away too much from my chest, that club face is potentially going to lack more stability. So that's a big thing that I like to see. Keeping that club face stable, trying to get that sort of feeling of your chest staying close towards your arm, coming in towards that impact and even post-impact area. And I did do a video not that long ago on Hogan talking about that as well. Now, I like to see the hands ahead of the club head. And one of the reasons why is because when your hands move ahead of the club head, what effectively happens is, well, sorry, say that again. I like to see it impact the hands ahead of the club head. And the way you're going to do that and elaborate that is by hinging or flexing the lead wrist. Now also the benefit, what happens when you do this is it opens the face as well. So when I sort of hinge, you can see the way the face is more upright. But when we hit the golf ball, and when the club face makes initial contact with the ball, the club face should be slightly open, because then the ball compresses against the face, and by the time the ball then separates off the face, it should be pointing in the direction where you're theoretically going. Obviously golf is not quite as simple as that, but the feeling that is okay to have is the club face almost being slightly open in that impact zone. That's my point, which is again the other reason why I like, you know, rotating your body, holding on to these wrist positions like so, because like I say, it feels like, similar to what I talked about in yesterday's drill, you can keep that club face nice and stable at the bottom part of that golf swing. Now, what you've also got to do in the golf swing, which is what I wasn't doing, is the reason why I was having so much inconsistency is because I was swinging too much underplane. So the club was moving under, it's moving too much to the right, which was encouraging too much of a rotation of the arms. So the feeling, when I looked at my golf swing, the feeling is that I take the club straight back here, and then as I continue to take the club up, I'm also inducing an element of flexing on that lead wrist. Now, I'm not going to suggest that you have to do that, but what I want to do for you now is, if you're with me on that bottom part of that swing and you like the idea of your body being open and you like the idea of your hands leading and you like the idea of stabilizing that club face, then what I'd also suggest is one of the simplest sort of feelings you could probably have in the golf swing, and again this is more of a feeling than a reality, is if the back of my wrist here was resembling the club face. So if that's pointing towards my target, if I just take that arm straight back so it's pointing down to the ground, straight through so it points towards the target, like so, that basically just means I'm reducing down my arm rotation. So rather than encouraging excessive rotation, you know, pronation and supination, just the feeling of almost holding that hand more downward would theoretically make it easier to square the face, and that's the feeling. The problem you've got is if you literally did that, so I keep my lead hand pointing down to the ground, you can see where it points the club shaft, unless you induce an element of flexion. Now again, I understand my arm's rotated, but it's a feeling. The feeling is you almost want to get a sense that club face stays pointing down to the ground in the backswing, as you then flex that lead wrist to help the club shaft stay on plane, because it's going to feel like that club face can stay much squarer throughout the golf swing. And we'll talk about this sort of stuff. Again, more options moving forward on the channel. But what I wanted to do for you guys in this video is talk about how I overcame that sort of inside motion with excessive rolling. And one of the things that I've been working hard on with students behind the scene is not only just this impact stability, which is this sort of idea of good rotation and, if you like, good wrist conditions, but also to just get that feeling of the club going back in a straight line, and then to stop the club going across the line, just allow an element of flexing in the back of that lead wrist. And then as you're doing that, if I do it from this angle, that's going to give you that ability to feel like you can rotate through whilst holding onto your wrist positions, which is going to lend itself to much more consistency. Stay with me. Drop me any questions that you might have in the comment section below. But like I say, hopefully you'll see with a lot of student progression moving forward on the channel, be a good thing to be a part of. See you soon.